It is amazing to me how turnaround is fair play. It's coming home to roost for Jogan, for Team Jogan. It is truly the sweetest plum. But do you know what else?
The sweetest plum?
Yes.
What's going on right now?
That
I thought
is,
I was in a weird mood this morning.
The sweetest plum. Describing something as the sweetest plum is definitely a Canadian press phrase. I was going to say CP, and no one would know what CP is.
True.
I'm John Chidley Hill.
And I am Sheldon Alexander. I was going to say, I was going to describe myself, and that's what the pause was. Trust me, I do know my name. But I was going to describe myself in a certain way, and then I just, blew the line, so.
And this
just push through.
This is You Killed It, a very punchy podcast about the challenge, talking about War of the Worlds 2. This was one of the more low key episodes I felt, in terms of pacing,
really,
and energy.
Really?
Well, because
I went the complete opposite way.
Well, I mean, obviously a couple of huge eliminations, but
okay.
It was also just the tone. There wasn't any explosive moments compared to the past couple weeks. We start off.
Fair enough.
I loved this. We start off by Kaylee reviewing who is in her super strong alliance. It's 9 people.
It's the whole house.
It's basically the whole. It's easier to name the people not in her alliance: Tori, Jordan, Josh, Nani, Zach. And I mean, we're going to get to the fireworks factory this episode, but what are they thinking having such a large alliance? We've discussed this before. Having 4 people in your alliance is definitely the optimal size, because you can't take 9 people with you to the final on 2 teams.
Exactly. And also, being on the opposite team, not alliance-wise, but being on the opposite team from the rest of your alliance is also not the place that you want to be either, because you have the least amount of numbers and you keep losing, meaning the opportunity for you to be on the chopping block is just that much more, right? If the roles were reversed and the UK team was actually keeping their strongest players, imagine, Paulie and them have been chilling for how long? Because Paulie knows, doesn't matter what happens, I'm not going in anyways.
Yeah.
And so that's the part that's even more ridiculous when I look at just how the UK team has played things this season.
It's ridiculous and incredible. We also have a brief scene where Tori and Jordan are sharing maybe 1 square foot of a giant empty couch. And she's clearly so hyped. This was clearly right after her elimination, because she's just got that big win energy that people get, and it's nice to see.
Yeah.
And she said something "Oh, I'd hate to be another couple in this house," and then they showed Cara and Paulie just looking miserable.
Oh yes. The thing that I found so funny about the beginning of this episode was the fact that the UK team was at a point, and this told me everything I needed to know about the UK team strategy, that Kaylee was leading their meetings. I was like, what's happening right now, right? She's saying that she doesn't want to get people checked. She doesn't want to see people being checked out, and she wants to make sure that everyone's on board. And I'm like, hold on. Kaylee's now the captain of your squad? That's what's going on right now? That can't be a nice place to be in, right?
Well,
how does that make sense?
I think Joss and Rogan, as the other potential team leaders, are realizing how badly they've fucked up.
Oh, it's actually incredible. But the other thing about that conversation that I found so weird is they're trying to, she's trying to get D on board, right? She's directing most of this at D. And saying, hey, we just want to make sure everyone's on the same page and things are getting out of hand, but we just got to be on the same side and blah, blah, blah. And I'm like, how can you possibly be telling this to D right now? Like, that doesn't make any sense. And her argument within this conversation and in the confessional, I actually agreed with, right?
Yeah.
Like, she's in this terrible situation where she's trying to defend herself, and they already threw her under the bus. What do you expect her to say? How do you expect her to react after they almost put her in? And then after they told her, we don't think that you can make a final, and you're the weakest person on our team, and you can't do this. And shouts to Dee for listing off the resume. I'm all here for the name check and the put some respect on my name, and you run down the resume, because it's true, right?
It's absolutely true. She's totally right. I forgot how successful she and Wes were as a team. They won several eliminations. They were very strong in competitions. All last season we were talking about how they were constantly in the tribunal. They put together a very strong season, and you can't put it all on Wes. As much as we love Wes on You Killed It, and I think if we had Wes on, he would agree that it wasn't all him, that Dee carried her fair share of the weight. So
either way,
totally right.
It's impossible, especially with how the challenges were structured, right? In a team, when it's just you and your partner, and that's the format of the season, there's no way that you get that far, you get to a final, and it's just one person carrying the load. It's not how things work. And then when she broke it down and they ran the video of carrying the tires through the sand dunes, you can't do that by yourself, right? Or the swimming challenges, carrying the puzzle pieces and stuff, you can't do that by yourself. So it's totally true, and I like that she put it in their faces. But the other thing that hit me was, oh yeah, none of these people that she's talking to were around for that.
Yeah. But also, how did they not watch the season? And this is going to be a theme this episode of You Killed It. How did these people not prepare better? How are you not doing your homework? I guess they were filming this as the last season was being broadcast. So they might not have been able to see it all. But also, MTV can get advanced screeners. I know that this isn't me just talking out of my ass. Let me rephrase this. The cast members get 3 or 4 episodes at a time through an online streaming service that's private, so that they know what to tweet about, right? They have time to prep their responses. And I don't know if you've noticed this. I'm sure you have, Sheldon, because you're smart. But listeners, I don't know if you've noticed this. The fact that the castmates have GIFs of themselves ready to go as the show is being broadcast, that's no coincidence. And in seasons where this season's being broadcast right now, the current season's being filmed right now, right?
Yeah.
If there was someone on this season who is on the next season and they're wherever and it's being filmed right now, they get all of their episodes in advance so that they can watch in advance and know what happened. So I don't know what the deal is if you weren't on the previous season and you're on the new season, but the technology exists and MTV is willing to do it. So it's on them for not asking or not saying to Dee and Wes when he was around, hey, how did it go last season? You know what I mean?
For sure. But also, all of that is totally true and 100% factually, straight facts you're spitting. But on top of all of that, how do you expect her to respond to her boyfriend in the house, her showman's partner, turning on her in that moment, and then thinking that it's okay because, he didn't actually go through with it. He changed his mind at the end. It's just so ridiculous.
What if he'd been at a nightclub without her and almost goes home with another woman? Is that okay? Is attempted murder now legal?
Ooh.
I'm just saying, we'll get to this later, but I was not super impressed with Dee's logic. In this scene, I was proud of her in this scene.
Yeah.
But
yeah, it made me kind of shocked just where things ended up. But yeah, we'll get there. There's a Cam and Leroy cuddling scene, and really this is just building to set up what's going to happen in the actual challenge that comes up. And this challenge was just a straight swimming challenge, which you know is coming. I mean, there's probably been other swimming challenges so far, but not just something like this where it was just a straight swim and that's it. Like, that's the only part of this challenge, right?
Mm-hmm.
And TJ says it right off the bat. If you're not a very good swimmer, today is not your day. And on top of that, not only did they have to swim to a buoy and back, which is 150 meters away, but also the slowest team, and you're paired up, which is very important, which we'll get to, but you're paired up, and the slowest pair is automatically eliminated. That, to me, is why this show is incredible. Because the curveballs just come out of left field, and there's no way to prepare for it. There's no way to strategize for it, really, other than, you know, keeping your swimmers around if you know the swimming challenge hasn't happened yet. Or the purge hasn't happened yet.
Yeah.
But other than that, do you know what I mean, though? Like, you can think that you're prepping and you can think that you're in a great spot. And even when it came down to Cara, right? As I said, Paulie and Cara have been chilling this whole season. But yet when it came up that this was a challenge, Cara was shook, no?
Oh, she was very shook. And let's talk about Cara now, because we got bigger fish to fry later on. Cara, like, psychologically is a mess. And Paulie says it himself later on. She's been to like 8 finals. She's won twice, yet she has zero self-confidence.
None at all.
And, I mean, Jordan's chirping her, because notably, they're wearing life preservers. And yet she's having like a panic attack about drowning. Like,
it's super weird.
She is a mess psychologically. And you can see it, and like you and I have sort of commented on it earlier, but like her insistence that people not part of the alliance vote along with her is also crazy, right? Yeah. Like we even saw it with I guess it was 2 episodes when she and Paulie and Zach were all in the same tribunal, and Zach was like, listen, you guys have the numbers, you vote the way you want to vote, you're gonna get what you want, I'm gonna vote my way. And she was mad at him about it. And like you and I at the time commented about how, like, why the need for like a unified force, like what's going on here. And I think it really shows how shook she is, even though there's no need for it. Like, there is no need for Cara to be as paranoid and unsettled as she is. Like, she has a rock solid alliance, and at the core of it is her and Paulie. Like, she has someone who 100% has her back, right? Like, more so than Dee and Rogan. Like, you know what I mean? Like,
totally.
She has someone that is so firmly behind her back, and yet she's freaking out. Like, it's very strange.
I think the issue with Cara, she's in her own head for sure. We know that's a thing. And Paulie brings it up later on, just talking about you can swim. It's just you get in your own head. And then, as Jordan says, pro tip, if you're talking and yelling, then you're not breathing properly. And if you're not breathing properly, you're not swimming properly, right? Yeah. So that turns into being her issue. And the weirdest part of this whole thing is Cara is so rattled and so annoying that she's making Paulie likable. Yeah.
Paulie continues to be likable. And that, well, first of all, I have 2 things to say. First of all, a fun fact, Outcast used to improve their cardio by running around the block while rapping, because of exactly what Jordan said. So, like, it is totally an issue.
No, it makes sense. Makes total sense.
I also have a lengthy listener question about Paulie. Hold on, let me find it. Should have been more prepared for this.
Paulie questions. I don't know. Like, this is a lot of time being dedicated to Paulie and Cara.
I know.
I really don't like. I mean, yeah.
We'll get back to them.
I don't like Paulie that much.
So
I'm really just buying time for you to find the tweet. That's really all I'm doing right now.
Thank you.
Hey, I do what I can. But the thing with Paulie and Cara is, even in the thing for Cara, I can tell so far too, is that it's about power, and she just likes having the power. Even when she was talking to Cam and Leroy and being like, "Oh, you guys are the power couple. It used to be us, but now it's you guys." Like, she in that couldn't even just say you guys are the power couple. She had to mention, well, it was us, but now it's you guys.
Well,
like, it's her handing it to them, you know?
Why is she thinking in that way, right? Like, why can't you just be like, oh, you guys are a cute couple? Like, why does it have to be about power? Anyway, here is the question from longtime listener Raven Ramsey. And I'm quoting it verbatim. In reality TV, especially on The Challenge, Big Brother, Survivor, etc., the castmates are either born as the hero and die the hero, like Landon, Jenna, Davon. You are born the hero and live long enough to see yourself become the villain, like Hunter, Cara, Natalie, Paul from Big Brother. That's for you, Sheldon. Or you are born the villain and live long enough to watch yourself become the hero, like CT, Rachel Riley from Big Brother, another one for Sheldon, Veronica. So Rachel's question is, are we slowly going to see Paulie go from hero to villain, aka is he a knockoff, cheap dollar store Napoleon Complex Bad Hair Day version of young CT minus having a DM? So in other words, are we watching Paulie become one of the good guys on The Challenge?
No.
I am curious. Go ahead. I want to hear more about this.
No, because, like, there's a different way that he's been playing the game. People that I like in the game, and we'll get to this, Jordan, whether you hate Jordan or not, part of his appeal is that he's in there winning eliminations. And people that I rep in this game, whether it's Wes, whether it's even Bananas, and I'm not talking about people I like, but people that I'll respect them and I'll rep them for their challenge careers. Part of it is going into eliminations and kicking ass. That's not Paulie's game at all. Right? Like, I don't think we've seen Paulie really go in his whole challenge career. We've seen him go into eliminations, but it's not the same to put him in the same category as, like, the CTs, the Wes's, the Bananas. And I'm not talking about winning, but even go to the Killa Cams, even the Tories that, as we're seeing right now. But I'm talking about people who have had their season where you just got to go in every single time and you're just winning eliminations, and that's why you're sticking around. That hasn't really been Paulie's angle. And for me personally, when I see someone go into eliminations repeatedly, that's when I turn the corner and I'm like, no, I rep that person. That person's hype.
I think that Paulie only appears like one of the good guys this season because everyone else looks so bad. Like, there are so many people this season that have made stupid choices, that have been incredibly emotional. Like, he's only seeming rational and likable by comparison. So,
and because Cara's ridiculous, yeah, totally.
yeah, but not just Cara, but like Josh, right? Joss and Rogan. Like, there's so many people who are being idiots that Paulie comes across as the voice of reason. Cara more than anyone. Like, Cara is the one that's, especially with the whole Jordan and Tori getting engaged thing, that's really what makes Paulie look good. And he's just replying, like, he's just acting like a normal human being. Right? Like, he's not going to like great lengths of nobility. He's just being a normal, reasonable human being.
No, I don't disagree with that. I don't disagree at all.
Anyway, back to the competition.
Yeah,
Puzzling
there's
swim.
so many interesting pieces to me about this competition because, again, as much as you try to plan, there's certain things that you can't account for numbers wise, right? So there's one extra guy on the UK side, so that means that person has to go by themselves. They have to do the swim by themselves, which obviously is a huge advantage because you're arguably not being held back by a slower swimmer, right?
Yep.
So, and then on the American side, there's an extra woman competitor. And so in that instance, that person sits out and doesn't swim. And that adds two completely different wrinkles for each team to deal with, right? Because when you look at it from the UK side, the argument is because, remember, they're coming in talking about how weak of a player D is, how weak of a swimmer D is. So basically, nobody wants to swim with D. That's kind of the starting point. And right away, I'm going to be super honest. And shouts to how they put the show together. And it's just from watching this show for way too long that I knew exactly what was going down. But as soon as they showed Kaylee and Josh partnering up and Josh being like, Josh looks at her and Josh says, "Oh, I'm going to go with Kaylee." And Kaylee turns to him and says, "Yeah, I'm faster." He actually asks and says, "Hey, are you faster? You're faster than the rest of them, right? Than the other girls." And she's like, yeah. As soon as I saw that, and it was subtitled, so it was something that, like, you know, some dope producer or editor found. Do you know what I'm saying? Like, found while they were putting it together. I was like, I know this is going to be big. And I got super excited. Also because we know Kaylee's not a good swimmer. And for you to outright say that you're faster than everyone else, like, where's the proof? Where's the tape? No?
Yeah. No, you're totally right. I did not pick up on that subtlety. I was more focused on CT saying to Rogan, like, "Hey man, you insisted that D should go to the final until like yesterday. You can swim with her. I'm gonna go swim by myself." I also like.
He's right.
He is right. He's totally right. I also like the interaction where Zach actually had impeccable logic here, where he was saying to Ninja, like, obviously Ninja, you're our worst female swimmer. You're not gonna swim. He's like, but this is why I hate you. Like, he was so clear. He's like, just so we're clear, this is why you suck. Like, this is why you're terrible, because you don't practice swimming. And now
now you're putting the other girls at risk.
Yeah, these four are all at risk because you suck at swimming, and like we have to put the team first.
So of course, what Zach is saying is mean, right? Like,
yeah,
like, I'm not fully endorsing
mean.
it, despite the fact that I did laugh when it happened. But his ire is misguided because it should be aimed at Paulie and Cara.
Yeah,
right. Because if I'm Zach in that moment, I'm saying, "See, Cara, this is what you get. You kept Ninja around, and now your head might be on the chopping block because this is a swimming challenge. She's clearly the worst one, and we're not going to put her in the swimming challenge now, so you might be going home." That's where he should have directed his frustrations at, not necessarily Ninja, because it's not her fault she stayed. It's a classic don't hate the player, hate the game, right? It's not Ninja's fault that she's still there.
Yep.
Other people protected her.
It's true.
But yeah, in terms of the partners, the Kaylee Josh thing was incredible. That breakdown, again, like, I know I just said it, but like, he blatantly asks, "Hey, are you sure you can beat all the other girls?" She says yes. But what else is she going to say? First off, in that moment, because she knows that Josh is a really good swimmer. But the other interaction I thought was really cool was the Josh and Nani.
Yeah.
Because right away, Nani was like, everyone's kind of like looking away, look at other directions, but Josh confidently looked at her and said, "No, you're my partner." And Josh is a really good swimmer. So that made her feel good about the situation, as opposed to Cara, who's nervous about even going with her boyfriend, Paulie, because she doesn't trust her own swimming. And then we all know Leroy struggles. If you're a fan of the challenge and you've been rocking with the challenge for a while, you know Leroy's history with swimming. And the fact that him and Cam right away were like, no, we're going together, I thought that was a really interesting mix as well. So heading into this, I was super excited because he didn't really know which direction it was going in, but you knew that it would be close.
Yeah. It was, I mean, we thought it would be close, but D ended up absolutely crushing Leroy and beating Cam. Like, if you actually look at the times, D was the 4th or 5th worst swimmer, which I know is, like, praising with, like, an insult. But, like, she beat Cam. She beat Leroy. She beat Joss. She beat Kaylee. She's a better swimmer than those 4. Like, full stop. Maybe not Joss. We don't know the timing. But, like, she put in a solid performance. And it's because, unlike Cara and unlike Kaylee, she tried. Like, she put some effort in. Right? But I alluded to this before. I don't understand how, if you're going to be a regular competitor on the challenge, you're not practicing swimming. Like, they have those lessons for free at the YMCA. Like, well, I really like Leroy, but I'm at the point now, like, how many seasons has he been on?
But I go the other way with Leroy, at least, because we forget now, and I know it's been a lot of seasons, but my guy legit, like, couldn't swim at all.
That's true.
And, like, this is a difficult swim.
Yeah, 150
right? Like, I feel like even
far.
if you can swim, the people who are the strong swimmers, it's not like they killed it.
No.
Do you know what I'm saying? Like, it still seemed like it was a difficult swim for even the people that could swim. Leroy is like, what, 2 years into his swimming experience? I don't know. Maybe it's longer than that. But point is, as a grown adult, he had to learn how to swim. And, you know, almost impressed that he finished. And I know that they're wearing life jackets, but I kind of think that if you can't swim and you have a life jacket on, meaning you don't know how to even, like, position your body properly in the water, right? Because it's making it more awkward, you in the water, if you don't know what you're doing.
Yeah.
You see people give up in certain instances, right?
Yeah, I think Kaylee gave up. Like, I think that was part of the problem.
Well, and the other thing I don't get is the different strategies. Like, because you've seen Cara go to the backstroke.
Yeah.
You've seen other people go to the backstroke, which I find kind of weird. I thought that was super weird. But I know it's super early, but I thought that during this challenge, you could tell that the dynamics between the teammates was super interesting. Ashley, who doesn't get along with Zach, was saying how good of a job Zach was doing in terms of coaching her along.
Yeah.
Right? He was encouraging her. He was being a really good partner. Obviously, you know that's going to happen with Jordan and Tori. Paulie was getting frustrated with Cara, as we mentioned already, because Cara is just, like, losing it. And you look at the other partners, and there wasn't really much help from Joss to Kaylee. And when you look at D was just, like, self-motivating herself, which she said beforehand when Rogan's trying to gas her up, and she's like, get out of here. I don't need you to hype me up. And she was right. She was self-motivated because if you remember how it started, they were behind Cam and Leroy. And D ends up not only catching up to Leroy, but then full on passing them. And that alone was a great accomplishment to see that go down. So I got to give a shout to D, but the second shout out I want to give in this, John, is to Josh.
Okay.
Because if you remember, at one point they're swimming, they're doing all right, but then on the way back, Josh just had Nani grab onto his life jacket and he swam her back. I was stunned by that. Like, I know Josh is obviously he's a big guy, he's super strong, and we know that he's a strong swimmer, but that's still a huge feat and smart strategy that we didn't really see anyone else do as well, and it helped his team get more of a head start? No, because they ended up crushing Joss and Kaylee. And the thing that we won't know is how disheartening it is if you are Joss and Kaylee and I know I'm getting confused here between Joss and Kaylee and then Josha and Nani. But if you're Kaylee and you start seeing them pass you and now they're way ahead of you, that's disheartening if you're Kaylee.
Oh, yeah.
As opposed to if it's close and now you're trying to, like, win a race. I don't know. I'm just saying. I'm giving a lot of credit to Josh here, which I know is very weird, but I'm gonna give him credit here.
So we've already said it. Joss and Kaylee are the slowest. They're the ones that are out. And as a lot of people point out, this is why you shouldn't hold on to shitty players. Right?
Yeah.
Joss is crying in confessional. He realizes that if he had Jenny or Georgia, both of whom he fucked over, he would have been better off than with Kaylee. And Nani pointed out too, Georgia would have crushed at this, but Joss instead played this super scared game, and it's come to bite him in the ass. There's no other way about it.
Two things. We said it at the time, right? Multiple episodes in a row, we said how dumb of a move Joss and Rogan are making here, because when you're getting down to the nitty gritty, you need to have a strong team, because not only because of the purge, but just you need to be winning challenges, because the only way you can stay out of the elimination is to win challenges. And as long as you keep putting in your strongest players and having weaker players on your team, the more susceptible you are to losing. But we got a comment here from Mona, who wrote in and said, the funniest thing is Georgia actually told Kaylee and Joss to their face that they're going to get purged out when she got eliminated.
Yeah.
That happened. That's incredible. But Georgia was right. And it is so ironic, too, that Georgia is a super strong swimmer and would have just crushed that challenge. And that could have been your partner if you're Joss. And we saw the signs of Joss regretting his decisions afterwards. But even still, forget about voting out Georgia and Jenny. That's extremely dumb, right? We can all agree on that?
Yeah.
The fact that he was being convinced by Kaylee based off of, again, who knows what? Why were you putting your faith in Kaylee? Kaylee is not some challenge vet that has won a bunch of challenges and has been on the show forever and ever. Do you know what it just made no sense to me that because Kaylee was telling Joss, hey, this is what we need to do, we need to send in this person, he was just like, okay, yeah, this is what we're gonna do. What? That made no sense.
I mean, I'm just gonna put this out there. Joss and Rogan have played one of the worst political games I have ever seen on this show. Yeah. From start to finish, they had Wes, one of the best political players in the game, in their corner, and they, under the slightest pressure, cracked and ratted him out to Jordan. Right?
Correct.
That's the first episode of this season. And since then, it's just been bad decision after bad decision after bad decision. Just horrible decision making.
Well, isn't it funny that they went from being on... Isn't it funny how they went from being on Wes's side to then Wes getting eliminated and then immediately flipping to the other side, which is Paulie and Cara, right? Yep. And thinking that now all of a sudden, even though Paulie's sitting there and Paulie obviously knows that you were riding with Wes, and their whole thing for how long has been, we're getting out anyone who was with those people, but they kept you along, and you believe them that they had your best interests in heart when all they did was eliminate your better players, and you just rolled with it because you're like, oh, we got to roll with the numbers. It made no sense. They had so many opportunities to reverse course, and they didn't do it. And if you think about it, was it last week? Yeah, last week when Tori eliminates Jenny, if at that moment they just made the smart move to say, we're going to keep Jenny and we're going to make Tori go against someone crappy on the other team, or even if it was just Kaylee they threw in, which, okay, I understand why you might not do that, but let's say they put in Ninja or just someone from the other side and Tori beats that person. How much better off is the UK team in this swimming challenge, right? With Tori and with Jenny, as opposed to having Dee and Kaylee.
I know.
It just makes no sense. Like, they had so many opportunities and they made the wrong decisions each and every way. And you mentioned, sorry, I know I'm going off here.
No, I love it.
No, but you mentioned Josh crying. Mm-hmm. And I immediately thought of Joel Embiid. And the reason I thought of Joel Embiid is because I understand people crying when they lose a competition, you lose a battle, you lose something that you put so much effort into, and I get it. But just like Joel Embiid, that guy doesn't get to cry when he loses because he's the reason why his team lost. He messed up and did a whole bunch of trash and knew that he was doing the fuckery and said the wrong things, and then he lost. That guy doesn't get to cry. Joss, same thing. You don't get to cry. I don't feel sorry for you that you lost. You fucked up. It's on you. So his tears, whereas normally I'm like, I kind of feel sorry for that guy. You know what I mean? Like, tough break. Nah, bro. That's your own problem. You fucked up. And before we started, I said that I was scrolling on Twitter trying to see someone's comments. And I went to Josh's page and I was like, oh, he didn't even tweet. Normally my dude has a lot to say after challenge episodes. Remember when he was talking trash after, which episode was it? He made the wrong choice and he tried to spin it into...
It was Georgia.
Oh, I made the right decision.
It was Georgia.
It was a Georgia one? Yeah.
Yeah.
Oh, well, we made the strong decision. We got a stronger member on our team and blah, blah, blah. It's like, nah, bro, you fucked up. You fucked up. And I don't feel sorry for you for crying. Maybe Kaylee can wipe your tears away.
You know who was crying was Leroy, these were tears of relief that he and Cam were not eliminated. Because they really struggled. Obviously, swim challenges are always dicey for the both of them. Cam's not a great swimmer either. And he absolutely just broke down. Instantly sobbing, which brings me to a tweet from Lawrence Thomas, super fan LT. He said, three men cried on the challenge this week. 3, all for different reasons: sadness, joy, and regret. That's the level of emotion we're at right now, and I'm here for all of it. I'm with you, LT. I am with you.
The Leroy thing was really cool, man, because we obviously do a podcast on the challenge, which means we're obviously heavily invested in the show in terms of avid watchers. And we've been watching for obviously way longer than we've been doing the podcast, but we know Leroy in terms of the fact that my guy could not swim at all. And add in the fact that he hasn't won a challenge, and it's just the most important thing to him. But how many years did he lose just because he couldn't swim? You know, and it's just been such a long ride, and we've watched it all, that, as I was saying to you earlier, John, the fact that he was even able to finish that, I was like, bravo to him, knowing that he couldn't even move in previous challenges in the water. He couldn't even move, right? As soon as the water challenge came up, it was like, all right, Leroy's out. He's eliminated. Good job, Leroy. See you next season. And instead, in this one, like, he just kept going, swam his heart out. And maybe he broke down crying because in part he thought, oh man, not this again. I cost myself and Cam this season. Or maybe he just, is thinking back to all the times that he couldn't swim, right? And how, the good old lesson that hard work pays off.
Yep.
But either way, I felt good for him, man. And you could tell the rest of the castmates felt really good for him as well. It was good to see. Range of emotions, as LT says.
So back at the house, we have Cara and Paulie having some tension. We don't need to talk about them anymore. Although I did laugh when she said to the camera in confessional, being in a challenge house in a relationship is the worst. Meanwhile, Leroy and Cam have repaired their relationship and never been closer, and Tori and Jordan got engaged. But yeah, it's hard being in the challenge house with your partner. And D, this is significant, D and Rogan talk to try to sort out their issues. And D says that she wants to work it out with Rogan. You beautiful idiot, D. And, basically he throws Joss under the bus, saying it was all Joss's idea. Which, I understand why he's doing that in the moment. It's going to cost him. It's clear that Rogan has no intention of having his relationship with D continue outside of the house. Right? There's no... When she watches this season, there's no recovering from the things he's done behind her back. You know what I mean?
Well, for sure. And I think this scene is just a continuation of the stupidity of this UK team. Because D, how do you come at this stage of the game, why do you need to side with Rogan again?
Yeah.
There's no need. Right? If Rogan, she says, I have no one else to turn to on my team, you could just link up with CT. You throw in Rogan, and now it's you and CT against, and I'm saying against, but not really, but it's you and CT and Tori and Jordan.
Yep.
What's the big deal there? I don't understand why she felt the need to go back onto Rogan's side, especially after everything that happened, especially after you showed such great strength in terms of believing in yourself when he didn't. And instead of taking him at his word taking him at his actions, right?
Yeah.
You're taking him at his words of what he's telling you in the moment. And to be honest, in terms of how this game is played, I gotta give Rogan some credit here because he played his hand really well. He said whatever he needed to say to get her to not want to throw him in. Mm-hmm. And throwing Joss under the bus is a great move. Joss isn't there to defend himself, and it doesn't matter anymore that, whose idea was it. And saving CT makes it less of a hassle for him as well. So it was just a smart move to blame it all on Joss, and it seems pretty believable. So I give Rogan credit in the moment for taking a situation where he could be totally screwed and flipping it, and she seemed all right. I don't know.
So we get to the tribunal.
Yeah.
And the vote was so fast that when I was fast forwarding through my PVR through the commercials, I missed the original vote. So I had to back it up. They voted I should say CT and Rogan voted for Jordan. And Dee's like, hold on. Let me say something first. And she actually had some nice things to say where she was like, hey, you know what? This has been a hard couple days for me. And I thought you and Tori were against me, but you guys were so supportive of when I was swimming. But I'm loyal to a fault, so I'm going to stick it out, but it's not personal. And Jordan was like, hey, I get it. And then in confessional, Jordan's like, you are loyal to a fault. You're an idiot. I hope this bites you in the ass.
For sure. And he's totally right.
He is.
Again,
it's in the process of biting them in the ass. It's happening. The karma is being visited on them.
For her to say loyal to a fault, and that being said right after she mentions the fact of how supportive Jordan and Tori were, just furthers my point of why do you need Rogan? If Jordan and Tori were supportive of you and being really good teammates, and then the numbers are even, so you could just partner with CT, what's the problem here? It really made no sense. But the other part we missed out on, because obviously the purge was a big deal, but because the US team won, which got to give credit to Paulie for solving the puzzle. Mm-hmm. Which, did you solve the puzzle, John?
No.
Okay,
I
I
tried.
was wondering because you're smarter than me and I didn't solve it.
Oh, I'm
so
not
I was
smarter
assuming that
than
maybe
you,
you did.
but thank you.
So, I mean, give credit to Paulie for figuring that out. It's a very interesting puzzle. But that meant that the tribunal obviously was made up of the American team, and they elected Ninja, who didn't even compete. But then she chose the two strongest swimmers, or the fastest swimmers, which were Ashley and Zach. And it was very funny because Ninja then asked, like, it turned into this weird conversation that didn't need to happen.
Yeah.
Where Ninja's asking Jordan about if he has any regrets, which who cares? I actually agree with Zach. Like, Ninja's she's just going off for no reason. But the interesting thing I thought was Ashley asking Jordan who he wants. And Jordan wants Rogan. But we all know that wasn't going to happen. Right?
No.
Like, we knew that wasn't going to happen. We can skip the restaurant scene. Right? Like, nothing happens there.
No.
I just didn't get why Rogan was knighting CT and D and why... And his speech was so terrible, but he was reading it. So it's like, wait, you wrote it down and that's what you came up with?
Well, I did laugh. I mean, I had noted this down earlier on, and I'm glad they addressed it. I thought it was hilarious. I think it's hilarious that the Brits have played so badly that there's no British people left on the UK team except for Rogan.
Of all of them, it's Rogan's
of
last
all
one.
of them. Like, talk about... Like, they have successfully eliminated so many good British players. Like, they had Kyle, they had Georgia, they had Theo, they had Jenny, they had Bear. Like, but they're like, nah, this is who we're riding or dying with. An American who has the deepest possible ties to Cara Maria. An Australian who, by our own admission, is our worst player. And Rogan,
who they were about to throw in.
Yeah, and Rogan, who didn't even make it through a full episode on his debut season. Good job, guys.
Yeah, that sums up how terrible the UK team has been. But for the benefits of us, it's been awfully entertaining.
It has. But you're right. There's nothing else that we really need to say about that. We did have another scene with Paulie talking to Rogan and CT about Cara. Cara's in the pool working on her breathing, and he makes the very fair point that she's not coachable, that she just needs to believe in herself. I don't know if you know this, Sheldon. This is a tiny spoiler, but Cara and Paulie are not on the next season of the challenge, and I am okay with that.
Yeah, that's cool.
I'm quite at peace with that. And I honestly think it's going to be good for them, like, mentally. Like, I don't think Cara is in a good place mentally. We've said this before of other longtime veteran castmates who come back season after season. We saw it with Camilla. We saw it with... There's someone else. I think to some degree with Johnny Bananas. I think there's severe mental burnout, and so just for like her own sake, I'm glad that Cara's taking a season off. I think it'll be good for her.
Totally agree with that one. Totally agree with that one.
So we go to the proving ground.
Yes.
Which Jordan sees it's a tug of war, and immediately says in confessional, "I'm down a whole hand." Like, this is not a great situation for me. And I'm glad. I always feel bad bringing up Jordan's handicap, his disability. But, like, the guy fucking crushes it in so many physical competitions. And his disability, it really is hard. Like, we have seen him do incredible things that I could not do as a fully able-bodied person. And yet he just destroys. And then, like, we're going to talk about this competition because I think it was a classic, but I'm just always blown away by how impressive Jordan is an athlete, all things considered.
Yeah, and the way that, because he's growing up being super athletic and playing different sports and doing just like an assortment of physical activities, he's learned how to compensate for not having a hand. And so when you look at something like this, where it's a tug of war, but because it's a challenge and there's so many wrinkles all the time to everything that they do, it's not just a straight up tug of war. They're on a platform and the ropes underneath a board, so you can't really see until, you can't really see who's really winning until, like, you pull out so much of the rope. But the reason I bring that up is because they add a level of strategy that makes it not just a tug of war. And so that's kind of how they even the playing field, because you look at it and you think, okay, well, this is perfect. If Josh was ever gonna win a challenge or win an elimination, or if you were gonna pick someone to take out Jordan, this might be it. Like, this actually makes sense. And I was actually on the side where I thought, wow, the Americans, for all their feeble attempts of trying to get Jordan and Tori out, they all backfired, but this might be their best chance. That's what I honestly thought going into this. And I thought that finally we're going to see Jordan, remember when he lost the bananas?
Yep.
And it was basically like he had to punch through the wall, and it was clear that having one hand actually hurt him in that challenge. Yep. I thought we were probably going to see the same thing here. But the way that they edited this elimination as well and allowed Jordan to explain exactly what was going on, that to me is what makes this show so dope. Do you know what I'm saying?
Yeah. I noted in my notes that basically this competition was designed to eliminate Jordan. Right? But I did note that he might have two things going for him over Josh, and that is stamina and agility, like balance. But you're right, like, it seemed like Jordan was done for. However, Jordan is really smart, and he goes as fast as he can to get as much rope as he can, and he keeps with
one hand.
With one hand, when the rope is actually taut, when it's tight, Josh will like pull, and Jordan will give him a little bit of rope, right? Mm-hmm. Like, Jordan doesn't really doesn't really fight that much, because Josh certainly has like 50 pounds on Jordan, right?
Yeah.
But Jordan describes in confessional that he's looking for a tell in Josh's body language, and looks to see if Josh does anything when he's about to make like a big move. And so when, for 2 or 3 times, they have this thing where Josh will like make a big move, and Jordan will like struggle just like for a second and then give him some rope. But once he figures out the tell, he gives Josh a ton of rope, and Josh essentially falls backwards off of the pedestal because it was too much slack. And like, I was blown away by this. This was so smart. And I noted, like, man, imagine losing a tug of war to a smaller, one-handed man. And
I actually wrote this down. Jordan is a fucking gangster.
Yeah.
I have never been impressed by an elimination. Like, this to me is just as impressive as the CT carrying Johnny Banana's knapsack. And I know people might think that I'm exaggerating, but when you literally break this all down, because it's not that I thought that Josh was just going to crush Jordan.
No.
I thought Jordan had a chance, and I was very interested to see what strategy Jordan would use. Because, again, you go into this and you think, okay, well, it's just a tug of war, so maybe he'll just, as you mentioned, have more stamina. But you watch and how it actually took place, and so the first time they go through it, and I likened it to a pitcher tipping their pitches.
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah.
So, like, there's a bit of a tell when a curveball's coming, or, you know what I mean, or the fastball. And you see the tell, and so Jordan knows, and he just has to time it. And this also comes from experience on the challenge, because how many times have we seen, whether it's whiplash, whether it's something like that, where you use the other person's weight and momentum against them?
Yeah.
Right? We've seen different challenges where that comes into play, and this is a perfect example of that. So he's waiting, he sees Josh is about to pull, lets him pull, and he pulls himself off. That works once, and I was like, wow, that's amazing. There's no way that can happen multiple times in a row, can it? And it did, like 2 other times. And the dope strategy that Jordan went from the first go around, where, you know, he did that, looks for the tell, lets Josh pull himself off. But then the second round, the way that Jordan fakes as if he's losing his balance and goes up on one leg to make Josh think, okay, now all I have to do is pull him off. And as soon as Josh does that again, because Jordan's faking it, he gives him the rope and Josh loses again. I'm like, yo, this guy, man. It was a masterclass.
It was a masterclass. I honestly couldn't believe that he pulled it off 3 times. Like, the way I pictured it in my head was, I thought the only way that Jordan's going to pull this off is, I thought that, like, I was surprised when he won the first round. And then I was like, okay, well, what's he going to do now? He's just going to have to tire out Josh. Because I do think that, although Josh is a bigger guy and probably a stronger guy, I think Jordan's in better shape. Like I said, I think he has better stamina.
Totally.
So I was like, okay, Jordan's going to have to lose a couple rounds now and just, like, gas out Josh and then muscle him over. But Jordan just kept playing literally the rope-a-dope and was able to just outsmart Josh 3 times in a row.
Well, the thing, too, about it is, so I keep emphasizing this because, as Jordan mentioned in his confessional, when they're both holding on, and it's like a stamina matchup, right? And they're both holding on, Josh is able to distribute the pressure onto 2 forearms, right?
Yeah.
Jordan's only doing that on 1 because, like, he's kind of using his other hand or his other arm as, like, a guide just to, like, hold it against his side, right? Because obviously he can't grip it.
Yep.
So the strategy of what I thought was if Josh just holds his ground, he can wait out Jordan. I thought that was Josh's play, but I don't even know if that would work, because how Jordan could probably just sit there for a very long time just chilling, because if he just has it loose, he's literally just using that other hand just to hold it.
Yeah.
Right? So that was the thing where I'm like, fuck, Josh might be really screwed. But as soon as you see Jordan's strategy in the second round, that's when you know Josh is really screwed, because come third round now, you don't know which way Jordan's going to go. So now you're full on fucked. There's nothing you can do if you're Josh. You're just screwed, because he just beat you in 2 different ways that you don't know which strategy he's going to use in this round. And now you don't even know what strategy you're playing now, because you completely switched to playing defense. Meaning all the strengths and advantages that you had in terms of being stronger than him, in terms of having 2 hands, it doesn't matter anymore, because now he's put you on defense. And he's in your head, and you're tired, and it's a wrap.
Well, that's one of the points that Jordan makes, is that Josh is clearly gassed. And, like, you can see it. And, like, I mean, we're sort of dogging Josh here, but I think Josh
I'm definitely not. I'm giving all the credit to Jordan. I
think Josh tried his best, but he just got outmaneuvered. Like, he just, like, I think he showed, like, I mean, the sweat was literally dripping off Josh. Like, this wasn't a half-assed effort by Josh. He just got totally outplayed.
I don't think that it's a knock on Josh at all, because I honestly think that most people that would have went into this challenge would have went into it as a classic tug of war.
Yeah.
I don't think that most people would have had the strategy that Jordan would have had, and maybe Jordan's forced into that strategy because of his disability, right? But either way, I don't think most people would have had that strategy, which is probably the best strategy to have regardless of whether you have 1 or 2 hands.
Yeah.
Right? Because if you're just there trying to like out-muscle the other person, like now it's a strength and endurance instead of just making it a total smarts thing. Man, Jordan, I was super impressed. Not that I thought he had no chance of winning, but just the way that he did it. I felt bad for Josh.
Yeah,
I really did.
Honestly, going in, I underestimated Jordan. I thought that he was going to lose, but that like I thought he would do all right. Like I thought he'd put in a good showing because he's not a quitter. He is.
It'd be
smart.
like a moral victory.
Yeah, but I thought he was done for. Just because it was, I mean, it's a fucking tug of war, and he has one hand, and he's doing a tug of war against a guy that is twice his size.
Yeah.
Like it's just the odds seem too high. So he wins, and I want to like I just need to talk about like the lay of the land now.
Okay.
Kaylee at the start of the episode was talking about her giant alliance.
Okay.
That alliance is now down 2 people because they lost Kaylee and Josh.
Correct.
Josh is in the other alliance. Like he's in the Jordan Tory alliance, sort of. More of a my enemy is my like the enemy of my enemy is my friend sort of alliance. But like he's gone. And I mean, at the end of the episode, I think it was Zach saying how like now the odds are even. There's only 5 people on the British team and like 8 people left on the American team, but he's kind of right. Like, there's still some great individual competitors, but now the Americans, like Cara is just a mess mentally. And she and Paulie are, you know, sort of at each other's throats. And I still think that Leroy could be flipped back in the right circumstances. You know what I mean? Like, I think a lot depends on which way Cam is going. And obviously the British team is, now it's just like, it's Jordan, Tori, Rogan, and CT. And D, like they're a little more unified in an odd way, even though D should not be unified with them. It's just it's a very interesting circumstance that they're in, as just like for everyone now.
Totally agree.
What do you think of like the composition of the house now?
I think it's all wide open, but it always goes back to the same narrative in every single season of the challenge where you have to be able to win eliminations. And so where Tori and Jordan seem to be screwed, and even when they made the flip and went to the UK side of things, right, you thought maybe that would help them, and it didn't really because they still ended up being in every elimination anyways. It just shows that at the end of the day, if you want to make it to the finals, most often than not, you just got to be prepared and willing to get your ass in eliminations and win. Regardless of what the alliances are, doesn't matter. It really, really doesn't matter.
You're right, it does not. What was your line of the episode?
There are a couple, for sure. There are a couple. But Jordan, I thought when he was making fun of Cara, and he's like, you talk, he says, when you talk the game that you talk and you can't swim in a life jacket.
Yeah.
It just was so poignant to me that like, it was like, oh yeah, like you really can't talk up big game about being the power anything and you can't swim, but then add in you can't swim in a life jacket. And it's like, come on, man, that's horrible. But I thought that was good, but also Tori, when just before the elimination, and she says in her confessional, she's like, Jordan better come back. If he goes, I'm making everyone's life a living hell. I'm putting ketchup in the bed. I'm like, is that a thing?
Yep.
I was like, okay, ketchup in the bed. All right.
My line of the episode was after he loses, TJ says to Josh, like, great effort, really impressive. hope to see you back soon. Like the normal platitudes. And he leaves, and TJ turns to Jordan and he's like, I was just trying to be polite back there. You absolutely and like I'm not gonna like get the exact quote right, but just the like when he turns to him, he's like, I was just trying to be polite. That killed me. That had me.
I think he said something along the lines of, you clearly dominated that.
Yeah.
Something like that.
Yeah. Like I always find toward the end of the season that TJ is the one that's really getting those great one-liners, because I think he gets sick of their shit. And yeah,
but also he's seeing how like dumb the other teams are playing, right? In terms of, you know, you keep throwing in Jordan.
Yeah.
And just seeing the performance that Jordan had as well, like, it's incredible. It's absolutely incredible.
He would also, TJ would also hate how many daily competitions have been thrown.
True.
Like he would not like how this game is going down. This season's going down. Who killed it for you this week?
I mean, it's too obvious that it's Jordan.
Yeah.
That performance alone, that elimination, we went through it in depth, and that was, honestly, I'm not exaggerating, I'm not about hyperbole at all. That was one of the greatest performances I've seen in an elimination, because of the surprise factor, but just the strategy factor. And that's why I love this show so much, because the way that the game operates, there's so many levels to it. You think something's about strength, and it's not. You think something's just about the puzzle, and it's not. And there's so many twists and turns, and shouts to Jordan and Tori, man. They just keep going through it and putting in work. But this is also one of those weeks, John, where it's not wrong to highlight the LVP.
Yep.
And that's your man's Joss. From the Frosted Tips, which is, like, not a look in 2019. I'm sorry. But, like, I beg people to try and send in a worse played season than what Josh just did. Like, that's horrible. How on earth do you put your game in the hands of Kaylee? That makes no sense. Kaylee and Rogan. That makes no sense. None. Josh was playing other people's games, and it cost him.
You know what? I think we should actually really appeal and ask to our listeners, please, listeners, can you name a worse season played by anyone than Joss and Rogan? Like, I guess Rogan gets the edge right now because he's still in there. But seriously, has anyone had a worse season ever than Joss and Rogan? And I want to piggyback on your MVP. I agree, it's got to be Jordan. I think that's one of I said at the top of this episode that this wasn't really an explosive episode. And by that I mean there wasn't like a hall brawl or like some big dramatic blow up. There wasn't like, Jordan wasn't talking mad shit. Like, I don't think there's any beef between him and Josh. But all that being said, that was one of the most dominant eliminations we've ever seen. Like, so masterful, so clever, and like, it's not like a highlight reel domination like the famous Johnny Bananas backpack, but it was still just like so methodical and like well executed. And we're at the point now with Jordan and Tori. As longtime listeners know, one of my favorite seasons of the challenge is Fresh Meat 2, and not just because it was in Canada. And in that season, Kenny and Laurel got put in week after week after week after week and ended up eliminating everybody on Wes's alliance. Like, Kenny and Laurel just dominated. And we're getting to that point now with Jordan and Tori where they're just wrecking house week after week after week. And like, okay, with Josh, you know, Paulie and Cara got someone on the other side of the house out, but eventually they're going to have to start putting their alliance members in because their alliance is too damn big. So this is like if Jordan and Tori can keep it rolling, it's going to be interesting. That said, I'm pretty sure there's only maybe 3 episodes left of this season, maybe 4.
Yeah.
So they're just about there. They've just about done it.
Yeah, it's crazy. It's crazy for sure. And what a performance. I'm honestly blown away by Jordan's performance.
Yeah, me too. Where can the good people find you on social media?
You can find me, as always, on Twitter at Shell Alexander. Slowly recovering. Well, I can't even say recovering because I'm still in the middle of it. But from yesterday's events that I know people south of the border that listen to this podcast, people in America might not understand, but when the Toronto Maple Leafs fire their head coach 15 minutes before your television sports show is about to start, it makes for a busy day. So, yeah, coming down off of that, Raps post-game shows you'll see on the timeline as well. So, lots of stuff going on, but hit me up with your challenge takes. I really do appreciate it. And again, I love all the comments that we get as people are listening to the pod each and every week. I do read them and I do enjoy them and laugh at the jokes and appreciate people, whether they agree with us or disagree with the comments that we say during each episode. But yeah, keep hitting us up.
I don't know what you're talking about, Sheldon. Everyone agrees with us all the time. We're brilliant. People can find me on Twitter and Instagram at jchidleyhill. Also, if you're feeling, bougie, you can find me on Vivino, my wine app. And you can also get me on Goodreads if you want to look up my name. That's what I'm bringing to the table this week, Sheldon.
That's incredible. Well played.
Thank you.
Well played.
Until next week, this was You Killed It.
You killed it.